We begin at 5 with wildfire season in the Northwest. There are a number of fires burning all around the region, and that includes the Bedrock Fire in Lane County, which prompted closures in Willamette National Forest over the weekend.
In southern Oregon, there is the Flat Fire, currently the largest in the state. So far, it's burned more than 25,000 acres. And in Washington, the Newell Road Fire, which has burned more than 60,000 acres. A little good news there, though. That one is now fully contained. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko.
And I'm Laurel Porter. The weather outlook is good to end July with comfortable temperatures, but later this week, the heat returns, and with it, increased fire danger.
Yeah, meteorologist Joe Ranieri joins us now. Joe, it's safe to say it has been a busy season already. I understand you have some new stats on what or who is behind some of these fires. What do they show?
Well, good evening to you, David and Laurel. Well, the Oregon Department of Forestry just came out with new numbers, and they are saying that people are behind some of the cause of wildfires throughout our area over the last couple of months so far this year. As we head into the early part of August, models are saying we are be seeing return of some heat, and that has some people concerned. It has already been a long summer for crews working on wildfires across the state and throughout the Pacific Northwest.
We are still seeing just a little bit extra. And so because we're kind of having this really dry, windy, hot summer.
What that little bit extra is this year, according to Jessica Pracky with the Oregon Department of Forestry, is human-caused fires.
We have had 456 human-caused fires this year that have burned 3,721 acres, and that's on ODF protected lands only.
She says while it's not a big jump compared to this time last summer, they are on the rise.
As we go into August, we want to make sure that people are very aware that, one small action could cause a large wildfire.
A real concern heading into August isn't going to be just the heat, but how dry we've been across the state. PDX hasn't seen any measurable amount of rain at all this summer. The last time we saw a real soaker was back in late spring on June 19th, 42 days ago. Pracky says there are three things behind human-caused fires.
A lot of things. So the number one cause of human-caused fires in Oregon is debris burns. We've had several of those, a couple of campfires, and then it also includes cars, like, parking over dried grass.
She says taking preventative measures now.
Go and make sure that your car is serviced to make sure that there's no faulty parts.
Will go a long way to stop fires from even starting.
The more people can be aware, the better for us.
Now, you guys, the concern won't only be the heat over the next couple of days and just how dry it's been, obviously. Now we're going to be looking at more than 45 potentially days in a row with no measurable amount of rain at PDX. But also the concern throughout the central and eastern side of the state, where it's been bone dry all summer, is the threat of thunderstorms. There is a little bit of worry that more thunderstorms later on in the week could spark more wildfires. Reporting live in downtown Portland, Joe Ranieri, KGW News.
A lot to keep an eye on. Thank you, Joe. We are also watching this. The Washington County deputy who was shot multiple times while delivering an eviction notice is now awake and talking to family. Charles Doze is a 10-year Washington County civil deputy. That means he serves legal orders, enforces court orders, and Washington County ordinances. Now, after the shooting last week, his fellow deputies started a GoFundMe. So far, they have raised more than $60,000.
This is going to be a long recovery process, and we're talking, months or years. We don't know what the income impacts are going to be down the road. We don't know any of that.
One day at a time. Investigators say 34-year-old Christopher James Graves shot through his front door when deputies arrived at his apartment complex. One deputy returned fire, and after an hours-long standoff, deputies found Graves dead inside an apartment. It is unclear whether he shot himself or if a deputy shot him. Right now, Doze is still recovering in the hospital. We have a link to his GoFundMe that's in our article up now at kgw.com.
An iPhone is credited with helping save a driver's life in Vernonia. On Friday night, the woman drove more than 30 feet down a steep embankment. Her iPhone sensed something was wrong and alerted 911. At first, rescuers couldn't find the crash, but eventually located the car in heavy brush, thanks to a neighbor who'd heard screams for help. Multiple agencies had to work together to pull the driver out and get her to the hospital.
What a story. Well, stolen car parts, a stolen vehicle, and a gun. All the handiwork, authorities say, of a prolific car thief who was just busted by Multnomah County's newly established auto theft task force. Let's get right to Mike Benner outside the Justice Center now. Mike, what do we know about the suspect?
Yeah, David, the suspect's name is Jesse Dane Brower, and in court today he pleaded not guilty to a number of charges, including unauthorized use of a vehicle, possession of a stolen vehicle, and felony elude. Brower's court appearance was brief. It lasted only a few minutes. He did not speak out in court. He only spoke to his public defender. Over the weekend, authorities executed a search warrant at Brower's Portland area home and found evidence related to dozens of stolen vehicles, not to mention stolen car parts. Brower had been the focus of an investigation by the Auto Theft Task Force. You might recall Multnomah County DA Mike Schmidt established this task force a few months ago. This was the team's first big bust. In court, Brower's public defender argued for a low bail. The state, however, argued for security to be set at $30,000, which the judge ultimately signed off on. Listen.
He's just a prolific car thief, it appears, after being on probation for multiple cases. Still allegedly be involved in this kind of activity. He's had multiple chances.
Yeah, the judge was by no means amused by Brower's alleged propensity to steal cars. He's been busted for this sort of thing several times in the last several years. In fact, I exchanged messages today with an old victim who could not believe Brower's been busted yet again. She said when he stole her car, it was a major inconvenience, not to mention costly. She's hoping Brower can turn his life around. Only time will tell, of course. He is due back in court on these new charges next week. Back to you.
Thank you, Mike. Today, a judge sentenced Lori Vallow to life in prison without parole for killing her 2 children and conspiring to kill her husband's previous wife. The Idaho murder case drew plenty of national attention. Vallow was found guilty during a trial in May. The case included bizarre claims that her son, JJ, and daughter, Tylee, were zombies and that she was a goddess sent to usher in the biblical apocalypse. Victims' families got to make statements today in court.
Instead of a good night's sleep, Tammy was brutally executed in her own bed. She was taken from us by murdering thieves. Lori sits here, convicted and prepped for prison. And let's be honest, the only question left is for how long? But Tammy was robbed of her entire life. And all of her family robbed of ever seeing her again.
Lori's husband, Chad, is awaiting trial on the same murder charges.
Near Seattle, officials are looking into what caused a small plane to crash, injuring 2 people. The plane ended up upside down on a runway or near the runway around 9 this morning at the municipal airport in Renton. You can see part of its wing broke off. Also looks like the tail section as well. Renton firefighters say 1 person was taken to the hospital. Another was treated and released. Crews were also working there to contain a fuel leak.
An 8-year-old up in Washington is recovering after being attacked by a cougar over the weekend. A spokesperson for Olympic National Park says it happened Saturday while camping at Lake Angeles. Daisy Caballero joins us with more details on what you should and shouldn't do if you come across one. Daisy, first, how's the child doing?
Well, Laurel, the 8-year-old is going to be okay. He only suffered minor injuries from this attack. National Park Service officials are actually saying the cougar let the child walk off after their mother started yelling at the animal. So far, we don't know what was happening before the attack, but we do know the family was camping at Lake Angeles over the weekend. The child was later taken to a local hospital for further evaluation. He suffered minor abrasions, scrapes, and punctures. The Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife say you should never run away from a cougar, as that can trigger a chase response for the animals. So here's what officials say you should do.
Stay calm, back away slowly, raise your arms, make yourself look larger than you are. If you have children with you, pick them up, but try to do that without bending down too much or turning your back on the cougar.
And just this weekend, the city of Tualatin tweeted this out. 2 calls came in Friday morning about a possible cougar sighting in the Sandy Palisades area. And coming up at 6, you'll hear from a Tualatin neighbor who believes she may have seen the same cougar Thursday afternoon.
Sounds like in Washington, though, Daisy, that mother did everything right. Thank you so much.